everyone, and welcome to 1923 Main Street,
home of the Daddy-Daughter Disney Travel Podcast. We are your hosts.
I am Mike Bellabraddock.
And I'm Amelia Bellabraddock. And today, we're going to be discussing the one thing that can put a damper on any Walt Disney World vacation.
And what is that one thing?
Stress.
Stress. Disney stress.
I don't actually know much about
now,
this
I know,
topic.
I'm going to warn you up front. Amelia claims she doesn't get stressed on Disney vacations.
I'm just very nonchalant.
But I am going to call her out on
correctly.
that. She does get stressed on Disney vacations.
I also apparently don't know how to use that word.
Today I was thinking about there's stress around Disney vacations always for a number of reasons. And we're going to talk about that. But I think right now there may be a bit more stress and anxiety.
I found the opposite, actually.
Why do you say that?
I don't know. Right now, when we went, I felt a lot more relaxed. And honestly, it's because as much stress as there would be in Disney, I really think that there's a lot more stress elsewhere, just in general with.
Well, Disney vacations are notorious for being stressful. And maybe...
Who is saying this?
The people who plan and run the vacations. So maybe if you're a kid and you just go along and go with the flow, but you are not. You can be, I should say, an uptight person on Disney vacation. So before I get into the examples
this entire trip
of you and the stress you have, before we talk about how we can beat the stress, because that's the topic for today's episode, Disney vacation stress and how to beat it, let's talk about what actually causes that stress. And if you've been on a Disney vacation, which I'm sure many of you have, how many of these ring true for you? And if you have not, you're just planning, let's say, your first one, these are the things you should know up front.
To be prepared.
To be prepared for. Now, a lot of it is around planning, but let's start with things while you're there. Weather is my first one.
Okay, you're in Florida. You can't really control that.
But weather does cause stress for people.
Of course it does, because it's unpredictable and annoying.
Yeah, and basically it'll ruin your plans. So the thing about a Disney vacation, we've talked a lot. Some sort of planning is required.
Well,
various levels.
Meticulous down to the minute planning.
Or look at our vacation this summer, where we actually relieved a lot of stress that we'll get to later because we didn't overplan. In fact, we hardly planned at all.
Actually, I overplanned, then you'd change something, and so I'd have to rework my entire plan.
Yeah, see? So did that cause you stress?
No.
Yes, your plan does cause you stress. Line number one.
No, it does not.
I don't know why I played the crickets for line number one.
No.
But that is line number one. Amelia does get stressed when plans go awry, so...
Array.
Awry. Not array. Awry. So when plans go wrong. Now, another thing that causes stress, so weather is one. You can't control the weather, so I'm going to get to how to beat all these things later. But change causes stress for Disney people. And we talked about this in recent episodes.
Change causes stress for everyone.
And it can be any kind of change. Like, for example, the Fast Pass change,
well, that's a bad change.
Lightning lane, or changes to the flow of the parks. For example, I don't know if I was stressed, but when we went into Epcot and it was all boarded up and we entered through the old Future World area, that's annoying and a little bit stressful because I'm just annoyed trying to get out of it. So change definitely, do you think change causes stress for Disney fans?
Well, it depends what kind of change, but most definitely. A lot of people I've heard can get really stressed about change because they're not sure how it'll work out. And right now, lots of things are just a theoretical plan and they are changing so much at once. So, for people that do get stressed easily, I can see how, they might get stressed about that.
Here's a universal one. Missed reservations.
You're going to need to rephrase that.
So, and I'm going to couple this with transportation because often the two of them go together. If you have dinner reservations or show reservations.
Here's a worldwide problem.
Or ride reservations at Disney World, and you tend to have a lot of them, and you're about to miss one. Let's say you're not going to, we've been through this ourselves, the famous Running Through Disney Springs episode where you tripped and fell and skinned
I got a toy.
knee and we're racing up to the restaurant. That kind of stuff you want to avoid. And that was a good learning lesson for us, even after probably 90 vacations at that point, Disney World vacations. It's just, you got to manage that stress. But reservations, because they're a defined time, and if you don't make it, if you actually miss one, in some cases you get dinged for it financially. So missed reservations are a point of stress. And transportation, the old famous Disney transportation, which is hit or miss at best, especially the buses mostly.
Oh, yeah.
But it can also be the boats because they're not the quickest things around.
Or if the monorails break down, that does happen sometimes.
Or weather affects the transportation. And
or the boats, you can't.
Yeah, and you still have a dinner reservation.
But I would say if you're going to Florida in the summer, you really can't rely on boats, or at least you need to give yourself a lot of time.
Especially in the afternoons.
Yeah. Well, when else would you have a dinner reservation?
Well, you could have a breakfast reservation.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. For dinner reservations specifically, it's very important you give yourself more time if you're traveling by boat because the weather is just atrocious in Disney in the summer.
So transportation and reservation stress is definitely a Disney thing, more so than any other vacations. You know, if you're on a vacation anywhere else, like when we went to Europe or France or not including Disneyland Paris, you have you're on a completely different type of schedule. You're not so stressed. It's not so tightly planned, even or loosely planned. It's still with the way Disney transportation is, you can miss reservations that you don't think you ever would.
But how can you like loosely plan? How would tightly planning even cause stress though?
Well, tightly planning makes things a lot worse.
It makes things so easy and convenient.
Yeah, but there's no leeway. When you're at Walt Disney World, you want the luxury to be able to do things that you see in the spur of the moment.
Who wants that?
Well, people who want to enjoy their vacation should allow for that, is my rule. Crowds is another one on my list. Crowds cause stress. People get very stressed in crowds, especially if they're parade crowds or trying to watch a show crowds, and you just get very stressed in that crowd.
I've seen you get very stressed in crowds. Are you like claustrophobic?
I don't like crowds. I don't like people.
Well, Disney's a great place to go if you don't like people.
But we manage around that, right? I don't like crowds anywhere, really, right? So I try to avoid those.
Why do you go to like the most busiest place on earth?
Well, I don't wait in crowds. That's the only thing. And if it's really crowded in a park or something, I'll leave.
And that's why we never do anything.
Yeah, we do tons of stuff. We've got 90-odd episodes worth of things, so we do quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Well, because now crowds are dangerous.
Yeah, during COVID.
As opposed to just annoying.
During COVID, crowds are like on fire, so... it's a whole new element to crowds, but I'm not even talking about that. But that is true right now, and hopefully that goes away soon. And related to that is lines. You know, if you get somewhere and there's just a gigantic long line, and this is going to get worse. I think the stress levels are going to go up with Lightning Lane coming in.
I actually like lines.
I hate lines, and people get very stressed in lines, again, because the problem with all these things is maybe each one individually, like what you're saying, it's not a big deal, but they compound. If you're in lines and then weather, and so you start getting later and later, and then you have that dinner reservation, and now you're constantly watching your watch, and it's very stressful.
That's just a day in Disney in a summer vacation.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. You can work around that, which we'll get to.
It doesn't have to be, because that's every trip we've gone on.
Here's my favorite one that you will totally like. Tired kids. Tired kids cause stress for parents and for themselves.
I don't know anything about that.
Tired, cranky kids get stressful. And I'm not going to let all our listeners off the hook because tired adults also cause stress for kids.
Yes, they do.
Because occasionally I may have been known to get angry when I'm tired.
Line number 2.
Why? Oh, I'm never angry? Oh, thank you, Amelia.
Occasionally.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
I guess I just thought I was getting short-tempered. So you got to watch out for tiredness because that is a level of stress and more so prevalent at Walt Disney World due to all these things. So if you're getting the hint now, all these things sort of work together for overall stress.
Yeah. Honestly, you could have all these things happen to you in one day.
Here's my favorite. Other guests. Other guests. Especially now. I mean, we've really noticed in the COVID era, I don't know what it is, but there's a much higher percentage of guests who are just, I guess, obnoxious. There's no other word for it. We've really, really noticed it.
And the cast members we've noticed are like that much better.
The cast members to us seem to be even more magical, and
Yeah.
yet they're putting up with guests who are just really crappy sometimes.
Because-
I used to rarely see it, and now recently, especially in COVID, it's
Yeah, that's
become
because
bad, and I
everyone
hope this
else-
goes away.
That's because everyone else is so annoyed and stressed every single day, and they think that they're going to have no problems at Disney. But that's not how the world works, my
There is
friends.
a sort of entitlement among guests going to Disney, and cast members do want you to have a happy time. I mean, that's part of
What do you
their
mean
objective.
entitlement?
Well, they feel like almost bossy, right? I'm here for a good time, and you better give it to me. That kind of attitude,
Okay,
right?
well, those people are annoying.
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. And if you're around that, which we have been, it causes stress for you, right? You don't want to be around that at Disney World. You're not here for that, right? You want to get away from that on your vacation. So other guests can be stressful. And then the final one is over planning, which is really the combination of many of these things. So that over planning, really, if you want to go to the highest level, is one of the single biggest potential causes of stress you can have. Right? Do you not agree? Let's hear a comment. Do you ever get stressed when, let me give an example. We're sitting in the hotel room at Disney World having a great time, and we've decided to do something else shortly. And there'll be Amelia tapping her hands on a pad, looking at a sheet of paper. And I'm going, what's wrong? And it's because you have your little plan. And
Well, it wouldn't be a problem if everyone would just follow what I said all of the time.
So what are you doing? Over planning. I feel like we're in school today.
I'm not over planning. You're just under listening.
No, I'm under planning by design.
No, that's not smart.
So stress overall is, as I said in my teasers for this, the one thing that can put a damper on your vacation, on any Disney vacation, is stress.
This is ridiculous.
Stress comes from all of these sources.
No one gets stressed on a Disney vacation.
Tons of people do. People get stressed thinking about booking their Disney vacation.
Well, that's upsetting. Those people should not go.
I mean, there's a whole level of stress just around the planning.
Why? Why would you be stressed about such a magical experience?
Now, I have to say, I'm just thinking of this now, this whole Lightning Lane Genie Plus thing, it's actually going to relieve some of that stress. Because,
is it though?
Well, part of the planning stress was the 60 days advance notice if you were staying on site to book your fast passes.
I always love Fast Pass Day. You get
Right?
to come
And
in the morning.
Yeah, you have to be all tense and get up and book those. Well, that's gone. Now, you're going to have to do it at 7 a.m. every single day on your trip, so I don't know if that's any better. But somehow I feel because it's paid, there won't be as many people doing it. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I think, first of all, I do think it's going to be successful. And secondly, I do think it's going to relieve stress because you can only book one thing right away that morning. And in every park, there's going to be a few things worth seeing. So I actually think that if you use Genie Plus, it is going to be less stressful, at least. Maybe not better or worse, but less stressful than the old Fast Pass Plus. Not the Fast Pass, which was stressful, having to get to the park and race to those Fast Pass machines to get the paper Fast Pass. That was stressful too, and a lot of running.
I can't speak to that.
So, how do you beat all this stress?
Well,
Any
you
thoughts?
listen to me, the dictator.
And what do you say?
Do everything I tell you and you will have no stress.
Yeah, that's the one I didn't write down. The bossy person in your family. The bossy person in your family can be a cause of stress for the rest of the family. So,
No.
yes. So thank you for reminding me of one that I missed. So I'm going to say two things. The first thing, and this sounds silly, but it's true. It's your mindset. You have to change your mindset around Disney vacations.
Malarkey.
And I'm not being some motivational speaker
Yes,
here. It's
you
really
are.
true. Before you go even with your family and you're making all these plans and everybody's looking at all the great stuff, it's probably a good idea, especially if you have kids, to talk about, now, you know what? Anything can go wrong. It's a big place. There's weather, crowds, rides break down. That's another
VIP
one.
tours get canceled.
Yeah, just things happen, right? And so therefore, sort of prepare people that, you know what, guys?
Yes, prepare people. Have you done that?
Something's going to go wrong. So when it happens, we're just going to roll with it and maybe make a list of other things you can do instead. Some of the free things outside the parks we've talked about in past episodes that you can just do, or other things like foot golf.
Maybe you should try that. Have you ever tried that?
Yes, I have tried it. I'm having trouble breaking through with one person, but I'm going to keep working on it.
Really? When have you tried that? I don't recall.
And the other one that goes along with that was really what I'm saying, I guess, is managing expectations. So you're going to have this tightly planned trip, and you are a perfect example of this. Look at all the stuff that went wrong in our COVID disaster trip
I didn't
that we
get
talked
stressed
about.
Once.
You were very stressed.
I was not stressed.
And it's because things outside of our control went wrong.
When was I stressed?
You're probably still stressed.
I'm not.
About missing that VIP tour when we didn't have to at all because someone messed up that COVID test and all this stuff.
That's not stress. That's just overwhelming annoyance.
Well, stress is part of it, right? That's your reaction to all this stuff. So the trick really is to avoid stress, or I guess you're going to get stressed because it's a natural reaction, but the key is not to let the stress ruin your moment even more, right? Just if you know going into it, stuff is going to go wrong, something at least is going to go wrong over the course of your entire week at Walt Disney World.
Yeah. Well, you know what's another thing that's very stressful?
What?
When someone claims that you're going to have another night to watch Happily Ever After, but then in fact you don't. And then the night that you were watching it for the very last time, someone had claimed that you were going to watch it again, and so then you didn't enjoy it to its full extent, and then you didn't get to watch it again, and then it's going away, and now you'll never ever get to watch it again, and it's all that person's fault.
No, it's the COVID test's fault.
Yeah, but you were the one. I would have enjoyed it more if you'd told us that we were leaving in the morning.
But we didn't know. Things were happening by the moment. And that's what I'm getting at. Stuff happens, and it can happen quickly. So if you've got a break, that's why I was saying at the beginning of this show when you claimed you don't have stress.
Again, I don't get stressed.
These are examples where I'm looking at you, kid. You've got to, and I know it's easy to say, but if you consciously think about, okay, something's going to go wrong, how am I going to deal with it?
Really?
I don't want to get stressed.
You were going to predict a false positive COVID test that had to make us drive home and miss the VIP tour?
I actually sort of did have that in my mind, which is why I booked that test so early. And they even messed that up by coming 7 hours late to do the test. The medical concierge, who we do not recommend, as you know from that episode, not use them.
I'm the one that multiple times suggested that we drive down there if flights or anything got canceled or went wrong.
Anyway.
And multiple times my idea was food. And what ended up happening?
You are going off the rails.
I'm proving I'm right.
So here's the other thing about stress. It's contagious. If
That's
one person
not true.
gets stressful, it can make other people get stressed. And then you get caught in this vortex of stress.
I'm never patient zero.
The very unmagical vortex of Disney stress. You don't want the vortex of Disney stress, right?
Yes, patient zero. We don't want the vortex
we
of
don't.
Disney stress.
So manage your expectations. Get yourself in a mindset where this kind of stress is going to happen, and get ready to work around it or deal with it, or have one person at least who's going to try to be the happy-go-lucky, upbeat, let's do this instead. So have things in your hip pockets. That way you can beat the stress when it inevitably gets a hold of you. Can you think of a time or any vacation where we did not have any stressful events? Have we had
yes. The most recent one.
We had no stressful events.
No one got stressed.
You were very stressed.
I was not stressed. My vacation went from Saturday to Wednesday. It was very lovely. There was no stress. Actually, maybe it went to Thursday at like 5 o'clock. Then my vacation ended, and I had no stress on that vacation. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, if you wipe out the last couple of days, it was a perfect vacation up to that point, I would have to
perfect,
say.
except for the fact that you kept changing all of my plans.
And you know what? The thing is, this is what I was alluding to earlier. We really, really underplanned. As I said recently, this is the first time in my life, over 100 weeks there, I did not go on a single ride.
I did.
So very, very unplanned. We were never bored. We did all sorts of fun stuff that we'd never done before. Yes, you can do that. Even after 50 years, there are still things you can do that you haven't done.
But it's just I planned all of this stuff, and then people kept changing my plans. And so then I had to rework all of the other plans.
Yeah, so
again,
you've got to break your mental habit of, you can plan all you want, but again, I'm talking to you as well. You've just got to have in your mind when you're doing this, okay, if everything goes to perfectly to plan, that's a miracle. I'm going to expect that it's not. I just want to plan because I know how you are. You like to have your days mapped out. But you have to build in your mindset that...
Yeah, well, people expect, oh, maybe we'll miss the bus and then be a few minutes late and have to wait an extra few minutes in line, not miss the best part of our trip and drive for 21 hours.
Yeah, that was an extreme case, but it did cause stress. And in that case, I mean, that was an extreme case, so there was really nothing else we could do about it. But that is not, thankfully, what normally happens, because as I've said, that was the first time in 50 years visiting there that anything remotely close to those chain of events have ever happened, and hopefully never will again.
I think, honestly, when I think back on vacations, I really can't think of any stress. Maybe March 2019, I really can't think of anything for that vacation, so...
Well, they were all little things, like I said, like that day when we were going to miss that reservation, and we were running because we were stressed.
You don't even like that restaurant.
I know, but I just don't want to miss reservations and then have to get dinged for it or whatever the case may be. So a lot of this Disney stress is around deadlines. So if you just bear in mind that things are going to happen, and I should also add that if something, if you miss it, not because, you were drinking by the pool or you slept in, the Disney cast members actually are pretty forgiving.
Especially if it's like Disney Transportation's fault, they will.
If it's Disney Transportation or something like that, when you get there, the odds are...
Or like even the cast members, if they're late, lots of times it's because of the cast member buses. And if that's the case, then they don't get in trouble.
Yeah, so just bear that in mind as well. So if you're racing to get somewhere and the stress is building, and that's, the reason is for something like that, like a bus broke down or you were caught on my favorite Skyliner for an hour trapped or something like that.
Oh, do we have a new contender for worst Disney Transportation?
Yeah, I'm avoiding that for the stress. Then those things... Even if you're past the deadline of when they'll hold your table, they'll likely do their best to accommodate you anyway, if it was a reason like that. So that'll help you in the moment, if you can think about it, if the stress doesn't get the best of you, to override those situations.
So what we're hearing is, I'm great at managing stress, and all you have to do is just, take things as they come, and just remember that you're in Disney, and it's a magical place, and, stress isn't really real.
Yeah, so you can see how... I've done such a good job with Amelia of making her think that she manages stress well. So do that with your kids, and you will be far better off.
Perfectly.
All right, everyone. So thank you for listening. I want you to share with us this week some of the ways you have avoided stress, or what are your stress-dealing mechanisms?
What are your stress-dealing mechanisms?
Or... what are the worst stressful situations you've had at Disney World? Those are almost the more fun to talk about. And through hearing those things, it helps other people who get caught in those.
Let me turn back on you. Yeah. I've been spending the whole episode being accused and attacked. Well,
my stress-dealing mechanisms, which I've learned over the years, is to...
please enlighten us.
Not react so quickly. and really... not planning so much, right? My plans have gone, I don't know if you've noticed this,
I've noticed.
Way less intense. I've just continued.
It's very annoying.
Yeah, and that's because I don't want the stress. I don't feel like dealing with it. So, you know what? You can really get caught up. Having a plan like that can really box you in. So have a plan, don't overplan. And the reason is overplanned plans rarely go perfectly, and that leads to stress for someone in your group, even if it's not you.
Well, plans could go very, very easily if everyone would just sign like a contract and do exactly what the plan said.
Oh, yeah, that's a great Disney vacation.
It's great for the person who planned it.
Yeah. So if you've got that planner back from our Disney DNA episode, then...
But all I'm saying is sometimes it's easier to give stress advice than to take it.
Well, it is. That's why it's a mindset. You have to consciously...
growth mindset.
You have to consciously think about it when you're planning and when you get there. And it's easy to forget about it. It's almost like make a note. Okay, anti-stress, a little stress with a line through it. One of those, so that when you're there, you wake up every day going, all right, if someone gets stressed, I'm going to tackle it right away, and we've got something else to do, and whatever the case may be. But if you can avoid it and knock it off and just put people at ease because things go wrong, it's going to make your vacation that much better, as it really should be.
And my tip for dealing with stress is just look around and remember you're in Disney. That's my tip.
That's a really good tip.
Oh,
'Cause
thanks.
most people, you get there and you actually sort of forget about the magic that is Disney. So just,
How?
you step back and go, actually, look, we're in Disney World. Yeah, we missed that, or we may be late for that dining, or the ride went down. But heck, we're here in Walt Disney World. So let's really enjoy the bigger picture here.
Yeah.
That's actually a very good point that you stumbled
Thank you.
upon. And a great
Stumbled
spot
upon.
to close the show.
I set multiple reminders to remind myself of that during the trip.
All right,
Stumbled
so
upon.
I'm going to call you out on social media this week, and I'd love to hear your most stressful situations and or how you dealt with them and or stress in general, because that's help each other make these things, especially with all the change coming for 50, and there's still some COVID stuff, and that adds an extra level of stress. So if we work on it together as the Disney community, we'll all get through it and have better vacations. So follow along and help out on social media. We are at 1923 Main Street on every channel. Love to hear your feedback on this one. And we will see you again next week. Thanks for listening and have a magical day.
Bye-bye.